Too much over? It's okay. Okay, I'm so sorry for that.
What took me there in my journey. September 20, 2012, this was my Facebook. Oh. How
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, so this was my Facebook status, right? What's on my mind? I'm so ridiculously excited, feels like Christmas plus birthday in one day. This is probably even better than getting married. I was not married then. I'm married now. And I can tell that getting married is better than that. But how does it feel the morning, the Christmas morning? How does it feel? How do you feel? Happy?
It depends.
It depends if you celebrate it and if you're expecting presents. How do you feel? Excited, right? What was it? I received a ticket. This was Trulia, the company I worked on. I worked in San Francisco, and we were working on Project Apollo. What was Project Apollo? What was the Apollo mission? Does anyone know? It was the U.S. mission to take people to the moon. We called this project because we used to use names for projects, but because we were going to go to the moon. What was the moon? Becoming public, IPO. So that was for me better than Christmas and my birthday in one day. And why? Because when you join a startup, this is the dream, right? You dream about making a lot of money. You dream about, getting that external validation that your company has been successful. This is a dream. These were my founders. These were people that I work with. So, it was one of the companies where I had worked first, one of the first startups. And for me, I was living the dream. And then after that, I just got super stuck to startups. I don't think I knew I was going to go into startup. I started working for an airline back in El Salvador, where I'm from. It's called TACA. And I started as an internal consultant, which always left me with, I'm not impactful enough. I'm just suggesting, but I'm not doing things. I'm not generating things. And then as I was getting my MBA, I did my transition from an airline into an online travel agency and now product management. And I thought I was going to go into the corporate path. But then I graduated in 2009. What was happening in the world in 2009? Or maybe it's more US-centric, the question, but what was happening? Financial crisis, right? The downfall of Lehman, the downfall of the whole financial system. And surprisingly, that's what opened my path into startups, because startups were still hiring. The big corporations were not. They had lost a lot of money. But the startups were still hiring, and that's what enabled my startup path. Bruno saw that I added this logo, like right now. Borja saw that I added this logo because I also worked at eDreams in the early days. This was 10 years ago when eDreams had just gotten public as well. And then after that, I worked in London. Climate was one of the most 0 to 1 that I've been at. And I fell in love with startups, but it's not just a love story, and you're going to see why. What is the role of the PM then in the different stages? In the 0 to 1, you experiment. Like, you're not building, you're experimenting. You're validating that your idea makes sense. You're testing your riskiest assumptions, and you're not refining features. One could argue that the role of a product manager is to generate features that become of commercial value for the business. There are no features here because there's no clear plan. So you're just testing. In the 1 to end, the next phase, when you have proven that your product makes sense, then it's about repeatability and growth. You're building an engine now to continue doing in a repeatable manner the things that you have seen to be successful. And then beyond, you become a multiplier, right? Like, it's about alignment, process maturity. You need to make sure, like product ops comes there, right? You need to make sure that the team is working well. And you move from just feature shipping to building capabilities in a business. I don't know how much, are you familiar with the different stages of investment? So you have seed, then you go from seed to Series A, Series C, and then at some point you become corporate. The seed level is when you just have ideas. And actually, I was just listening to an investor's call. There was this lady at First Round Capital talking about at seed level, we invest in the founder. They may have a good idea, they may have good signals, but I'm going to focus on the founder, on what people can tell me about how it is to work with them, about how good operators they have been. Are they a-holes? Are they good people? That's what the investors are looking for in this point. So what is your product focus? Should you join a company at this stage? It's about finding product market fit. In other stages as well, sometimes you launch new products and you still need to keep on trying to find your product market fit. But this is the product market fit of your first idea. And what are the processes? No processes. You just ship it and you see what sticks. In Series A, that's where the founders need to start learning to delegate, right? And at that stage, it's about user growth. You begin with Agile, but you have to remain scrappy because you don't have the budget, you don't have all of the resources, and you continue wearing multiple hats. Series C, the founder focuses on managing managers, which for some founders is completely foreign. And as a product person, you focus on expansion. And then beyond that, when you become a big corporation, it's about optimization. Right? Like you're not launching that much new. You optimize the core, and then you're going to see that eventual team that's going to be launching new ventures or going to be launching new products. But big corporations are going to focus on defending what they have already been successful at. There's also a big difference, and I think we're going to continue seeing more and more of this, between the venture capital backed and the bootstrapping. Bootstrapping means the founder is going to find the means to be profitable as soon as possible so that they don't need to get investment from the outside. And why? Because they don't want to be giving away their power, right? So the focus is very different. In the VC-backed, growth at all costs, well, probably not anymore, but that has been where we're coming from in the last years. Hitting growth targets. And then if you're bootstrapping, focus on profitability from day one. So then your focus in product is going to be either about aggressive growth and market capture and expansion and putting the money for the growth engine versus focusing on revenue and making sure that you're paying the bills. So the decision-making criteria changes significantly. And the delivery process is here. Fast iterations, we're going to fail as fast as possible. And here you make smaller bets because every euro counts. So it's about changing your mindset, right? Like living the dream, it requires you to adapt from being in a big corporation or in a more formal environment to a more chaotic environment. The first mindset shift is from control to adaptability. I found this nice quote by Bruce Lee that it says that the stiffest tree is the one that cracks more easily. So we cannot be inflexible in a startup scenario. So we're going to be wearing the hat of even customer service sometimes. We're going to be wearing the hat of even being, the entertainment of the founder, if that's what's required for you to get your objectives done. Startups are volatile, and the PMs who cling to stability, they're going to become blockers, right? So it's about like really going with the flow, and that theory that you're the mini CEO, or you throw that away because you're going to have to find your space and probably go beyond your space to be able to meet your objectives. The second mind shift is going from roadmaps, which are clearer at bigger companies or at more established companies, And you're gonna have to keep on trying to test your riskiest assumptions. What are the riskiest assumptions? Those that are so critical to the business that if we don't test it as soon as possible, we may not survive. One of the riskiest assumptions, you build something, right? I'm mentoring a few founders at the moment, and they have built an amazing SaaS that helps property managers come up with beautiful designs, interior designs for service departments. The tool works well, but then I asked them, do you have demand? How many clients have you been able to convince? Because I think that where they are, they have spent at least 2 years working on this. One of them is an architect, and the other one is an engineer, and they love their product. But if they don't have the demand, then it really doesn't matter, right? And it's hard when you're 2 years in, and then you realize I don't have the demand at this stage. It doesn't mean that it can't be found, but it's better to try to test the demand first before you build too much. The third mindset is you become from the perfect plan. There's no perfect plan in product. We know that. It's even worse at startups. So yeah, like that beautiful. I always actually hated Gantt charts. But you go from having the perfect plan to having the right toolbox to be able to enable the conditions for smart decisions. You have a deeper understanding of the customer and business, and then you shape the strategy with leadership. But then you have to provide all the necessary context so that the team executes well. And then this one is, as always, we are the ones that have to hold the most empathy for customers. But what blows our minds is that we also need to have empathy for the founders. And sometimes we forget that. I have forgotten that, for sure. I worked with a founder that was obsessed about which position we were in SEO keyword number 30. Not even number 1, number 2, number 30. And he would send us reports on that. And I was like, why is this guy so obsessed? Because that's how he interpreted the success of the business, right? And that's your empathy. You are not fundraising like this guy is. You are not putting yourself out there and receiving rejection after rejection, right? So that's the empathy also that you need to build if you want to join a startup. I said that the road hasn't always been rosy. I hope you can hear the audio. Let me see. Oh, 1 second. Victor. I figured this was going to. If not, that's okay. Well, I can share it with you. This was going to show you. Oh, Victor's gonna come. This was going to show you a trailer of a BBC documentary of a company that I worked at. I don't think it's gonna work. Yeah, it's not gonna work, right?
It's not taking. Let's see.
Okay, I can tell you what it was. No, but leave the video as I speak. I used to work for this company that provided experiences for Generation Z, and you know the Fire Festival. Did someone watch that documentary and so on? So we were creating similar things. It was a B2B2C marketplace, and these two were the founders, and we were offering like amazing experiences at concerts and at clubs and so on. They significantly mismanaged the company. They raised 100-something million, and the company had to go into administration. So, you know, successful at finding product market fit, successful at raising money, terrible at managing, right? And you can find that at startups. And this one actually, like this girl, she was working in the US. She had like a condition, a health condition. And because these guys stopped paying for her health insurance, she could not continue her treatment. That's also what can happen, right? So, you know, I would say you're betting on your career and you can bet for an excellent founder. Please, as much as possible, search for referrals of the people that you engage with if you decide to go on this path, because you need to know, like, these are going to be people that you're going to be working like more than in corporations, that you're betting significantly on them. So yeah, like at this point, you know, I was super excited, but this one was also almost convincing me that I should leave the startup path. But now, how have I resolved it in my life? I became a consultant. I am able to work with several startups in helping them while I also establish distance. And I'm not going to say that's easy, but that is how I resolved it in my life. Now, you come as a consultant, then you have to start selling, you have to start marketing, and so on. It's a different kind of your brain. But I still like the startups, and that's how I'm reinventing myself. And I just want to leave you with the memories that I cherish. This was my last stand-up at that company that I was telling you about, the IPO. And this was back in 2014, right before I joined eDreams. These guys decided not to talk about what they did the previous day and what they were going to be doing today as any stand-up. And they said, what are we going to miss about Adriana? And I was like, okay, I made my mark. We created culture, right? That's also one of the key benefits of joining a startup. You build the culture from the starters. That becomes the DNA of the company, and that's also something worth noting, right? So I told you about the pros and cons. Happy to talk more about that. But if you decide to go into that journey, it can be amazing. It's ups and downs. In any case, there's nothing stable nowadays. You might as well give it a go. And that's it. Thank you so much. And please, let's connect on LinkedIn. Do we have time for questions? Yeah, okay. Yes, please go ahead.
In the case of you creating a startup that has like a niche market,
Mm-hmm.
for example, if you are in healthcare
Yeah.
or cancer treatment or whatever, in the case you are VC funded, how do you make your funder, your investor happy in the case of there is limited growth to that company? Like it's a specific market, there's like percentage of people you can sell the product. It's not like it's going to grow forever. Like it's going to maybe end up in a top. For example, Facebook cannot grow more. It's constantly trying, but it's not growing more. So how do you manage it?
Well, it's not necessarily that you're not good. It depends on the metric that you're talking about, and depends on the case, right? But if you're serving a niche, maybe you're going to start, maybe your niche is not bigger than 2,000 companies, if it's a B2B, right? But it may be that you start with a, average contract value of 1,000, and then you go from 1,000 to 5,000 to 10,000. So that is also growth, right? You're probably going to reach a point in which, okay, I maybe have topped up this niche, then let's go on to another one, an adjacent one, and so on. Now, it all depends on the vision for the company, right? Like if you're going to stay there, you might as well dominate the market. And I think that makes the investor happy. Not every investor, though. A VC investor is going to want you to show double, triple amounts of growth. So you might need to partner up with an investor that is more aligned with the possible returns that you can receive. So finding the right investor is also part of a big part of the journey for founders. And not every investor is going to be a good fit for them, even if they have a lot of money.
So in the case of a niche it's more aligned to what you want to do.
Maybe you want to bootstrap it even more, but maybe you don't have the means to get that started, right? So I think it's about finding the right investor profile. It may be you start with a couple of angels, and then from there you have proven that this is going well, found profitability, and just you continue without investment.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, first of all, let's say thank you for your, you shared your knowledge with us.
Yeah.
Well, there's a question I said, let's say I always interested to know the answer from a professional in this field. Okay, in case of startups, it's not good, but it's kind of okay-ish if in case of failure. Okay, maybe there are lack of resources, I don't know, lots of things happen with that. But what about in case of big tech companies? For example, I don't know if someone remember Google had a project called, okay, let's say not a startup, maybe it's called startup, Google Wave.
Google has a lot of failing products.
What the main reason that even big tech companies, I don't know, I think they are not lack of resources, right? What the main reasons that their product, even their products fails?
Why?
Yeah.
Because it may not work, right? Like you may be too early, you may be too late, you may be not the right, you may not have found the right niche. You chose a different ideal profile. You were building for someone else, and then you were building for men, and then you saw, oh, it's women that is actually using this, and then you painted all rose, and then women are gonna stop using that because we don't want to be sold like rosy things, right? So it's for many reasons that it can still fail, and at startups you must fail, right? I think that's also a mindset. It's like stop being scared of failing, because failing as fast as possible is going to lead you to success, right? Like this is an experiment. This is a scientific method, right? Trial and error. And no scientific method ever starts with success from the get-go, right? Probably then for the wrong hypothesis. So then, since there's so many hypotheses, and one of them is so critical to that can lead to failure, might as well test those hypotheses that are so critical at the beginning. That is the gist of this. Yes.
Question. At what point do you go to find investor? Like, when do you know you are ready?
Well, that's very interesting. I think that you need to listen to what the investors say, but there was, I just heard this today, there was this investor that was saying, I was not ready to invest in this founder because this founder had too much unknowns and also the investors, they decide what kind of companies and what milestones and so on. But she did say, I kept this founder in my radar because at the point where she was going to raise her seed, she would have had to solve a lot of those unknowns, and that is when I would be more attracted to what she offers. So I think it's not clear, if you're in B2B SaaS, it could be that you need to have 1 million ARR in order to raise your next round and blah, blah. But, well, as a founder, you're going to know when you're running out of money, and that's probably a key indicator. But you could also decide, I'm going to have to let go of people because I don't want to take new investment money. But it's also, if you haven't yet proven that there are clear signals that your business is growing, then that makes the fundraising harder, right? So I think it's about having clear signals that you're not necessarily winning, because winning is too absolute, but that you're getting there, that you're progressing, that you're hiring the right team, that you're testing the different go-to-market channels and so on. Yes, do we have to end? No. Question. Sorry, I acknowledge that I'm between you and the pizza, no? Okay.
So I had the startup bug, and I went into a startup.
Uh-huh.
So I have two questions. First, what are the three most important questions you should ask when you're thinking about going into a startup? And then when you're in the mess of the startup, working 16 hours per day, and you believe in the mission, and you see the numbers are rubbish, how do you say, okay, this is going nowhere? How do you stop yourself from pushing? Do you have a trick to say, okay, how do you take the canary in the mind, say, okay, this is not going the right direction?
I think the first one is easier to answer. So ask the founder, right? Like, what is your vision? What are your values? How do you want this I think you really need to know your founder, because the founder is the business, or it's 80% of the business, and you have to interview the founder. And if they don't want to be interviewed, then that's your red flag to run away. The second thing, you have to ask about the financials of the business. You need to ask about how much cash, for how many months do they have cash, what is the burn rate, which additional hires they're going to bring, because that is going to impact, sooner or later, if they run out of money. And then I think as a product person, you want to have reassurance that they really know their customer. And if they don't know their customer, to fully delegate it to you so that you know their customers on their behalf. However, I think that the founders really need to understand pain points, needs that they're solving for, size of the market. So those are questions that, like, whatever questions are those that give you reassurance that they know what they're talking about. When to stop trying? Everyone has their threshold, right? I think if you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, you just pack your learnings and you go. Like, maybe I'm too simplistic, but I think there's many things to do in the world, to just keep suffering and or you choose. You have to choose from one suffering to another one. But yeah, I don't know. I cannot give you an advice because I don't think I have successfully always done it. Yes. Final question, right?
Yep.
No worries.
Culture-wise, do you think there is a lot of difference between startups in North America versus in Europe?
Yeah. So my children are going to be raised in Spain. I think there's a lot of values in the education. There's a lot of meritocracy. There's, if you put in the effort, it's going to work and so on. In the US, it's about fake it till you make it, ambition. We're going to self-promote and so on. It's very different. Like, actually, for me, coming from the US to here, it was a shock. Because I was like, whoa, why are they working more hours? And why are they going to have a bocadillo at 11 a.m.? And it was a cultural shock. So yeah, it's different, right? And even the rounds here in Spain, like a seed round, it's hundreds of thousands of euros. In the US, $1 million is easily what you can get in a seed round, 5 million or more than that. So the whole ecosystem, I think it's conditioned to be a little bit more cautious.
The bureaucracy.
Yeah, that doesn't help. Okay, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.